"Please don't hit me," cried the CEO. Then the single dad changed everything. The rain poured down that night like the sky itself was grieving. Streetlights flickered over the empty parking lot of an office building that never truly slept. Inside, a janitor worked in silence, his mop gliding across the polished floor, his reflection fading in and out beneath the fluorescent lights. His name was Ethan Carter, a single father doing double shifts to keep a promise to his daughter, that no matter how hard life got, he'd never let her feel like she was alone. But tonight, something was off. As Ethan turned to empty a trash bin in the CEO's private office, he noticed the door wasn't locked, unusual for Mr. Victor Hale, a man known for his perfection, control, and ruthlessness. When Ethan pushed the door open slightly, the sight before him stopped him cold. Victor Hale, the feared CEO of Hale Industries, was sitting on the floor, his head in his hands, trembling like a broken child. Papers were scattered everywhere. His phone screen cracked, and his voice, that commanding, cold tone, was gone. In its place was a whisper. "Please don't hit me," he cried out, covering his face. Ethan froze, his heart pounding. He wasn't sure if Victor was talking to him or reliving something else. The man who ruled hundreds of employees like an unshakable king now looked like someone begging for mercy in his own castle. Ethan didn't know what to do. Should he speak, leave, call someone? But then Victor's eyes lifted slowly, meeting his. They weren't the eyes of a CEO. They were the eyes of someone haunted. "Mr. Hale," Ethan said gently. "It's just me, the janitor." Victor blinked rapidly, as though trying to wake from a nightmare. He forced a shaky breath and stood, embarrassed, furious at himself for showing weakness. "You didn't see anything!" he snapped, but his voice cracked halfway through, betraying him. Ethan nodded quietly. "Okay, sir." But as he turned to leave, Victor whispered again, softer this time. "You ever been afraid of someone who's supposed to love you?" Ethan stopped in the doorway. That question hit him like a bullet. He remembered his own childhood. The yelling, the fists, the broken plates. He remembered hiding under the bed with his sister, waiting for their father's anger to pass. He turned back. "Yeah," Ethan said. "I have." And for a moment, silence filled the room. The janitor and the CEO stood there, two men from completely different worlds, yet bound by invisible scars. That night was the beginning of something neither of them expected. A week passed, and the office buzzed as always. No one knew what had happened that night, but Victor had been different, quieter, distracted. His employees noticed, whispering about how the Iron Man of Hale Industries seemed to have rusted. Ethan tried to stay out of sight, doing his job quietly, until one evening Victor called him into his office again. "I need to talk," Victor said simply. Ethan hesitated but nodded. He sat across from the man who had once terrified the entire company. But tonight, Victor looked like someone drowning, trying to reach the surface. He spoke slowly at first, then faster, like a dam had burst. He talked about his father, a respected general who ruled his house like a battlefield. Every mistake was punished. Every emotion was weakness. He grew up learning to hide pain, to turn fear into control. But now, after his father's death, the nightmares wouldn't stop. "I see him everywhere," Victor said. "When I raise my voice at my employees, when I fire someone, when I look in the mirror. I've become him." His voice broke. "I'm so tired of being him." Ethan didn't interrupt. He just listened, something no one else ever did. Finally, Ethan said, "You don't have to keep being him." Victor looked up, surprised. "I used to think the same thing." Ethan continued. "My dad was a mean drunk. I promised myself I'd never be like him. But after he left, I got angry too, at the world, at everyone. Until one day, my little girl asked me why I never smiled. That's when I realized I was becoming what I hated." He paused, then smiled faintly. "So I changed. For her. And you can change too. For yourself." Victor sat silently, staring at the janitor. This man who earned less in a year than he did in a day, yet somehow held the wisdom of a lifetime. That conversation became their secret. Every few nights after the office emptied, the CEO and the janitor would sit in that same office, talking about pain, about family, about how hard it was to start over when everyone already thought they knew who you were. Slowly, Victor started to heal. His anger faded, replaced by a fragile kindness he hadn't known he could feel. He even started visiting Ethan's daughter Lily, who loved listening to his stories about business, not realizing she was teaching him more about innocence than he was teaching her about success. Then one night, Victor came to the janitor's small apartment, drenched from the rain, holding a small teddy bear. "It was my mother's," he said. "I kept it all these years. I thought I'd buried that part of me. But I want to give it to Lily. Maybe she can have the childhood I never did." Ethan's eyes welled up. He took the bear, speechless. That moment changed them both forever. 2 months later, Hale Industries held a major press conference. The world watched as Victor Hale, the feared CEO, stepped onto the stage, visibly nervous but smiling softly. He began his speech not with corporate achievements, but with something no one expected. "I used to believe power meant control," he said. "But a man who controls others and loses himself is not powerful. He's just afraid. Someone once showed me that real strength is admitting when you're broken and deciding to heal anyway." He looked into the audience and smiled at a man standing quietly in the back, wearing a janitor's uniform. "That someone," Victor said, voice shaking, "is sitting right there." Cameras turned. Gasps filled the room. Ethan froze, tears welling in his eyes. "This man reminded me that everyone, no matter how rich, poor, powerful, or invisible, fights battles no one sees." Victor continued, "And sometimes, the people we overlook end up saving us." The crowd erupted into applause. Ethan couldn't stop the tears streaming down his face. In that moment, every sleepless night, every sacrifice, every moment of quiet pain, it all meant something. After the conference, Victor walked over and hugged him. "Thank you," he whispered, "for seeing the human in me when I couldn't." Ethan smiled. "You just needed someone to remind you who you really are." The two men stood there, not CEO and janitor, not rich and poor, but two survivors who finally stopped running from their pasts. And as they walked out together, the rain had stopped. The city lights glowed softly, and for the first time in years both men felt the same thing: peace. Because sometimes it takes the most ordinary person to heal the most broken soul.